Okay, everyone, Joe Rogan just interviewed Elon Musk, and we got some unbelievable insights into the future. Check out this clip and then my reaction.
AI is a supersonic tsunami. So that's what I call it, supersonic tsunami.
It's like, what other jobs will be available that aren't available now because of AI?
AI is really still digital. Ultimately, AI can improve the productivity of humans who build things with their hands or do things with their hands, like welding, electrical work, plumbing, anything that's physically moving atoms, like cooking food or farming. Anything that's physical, those jobs will exist for a much longer time. But anything that is digital, which is just someone at a computer doing something, AI is going to take over those jobs like lightning.
Coding, anything along those lines.
It's going to take over those jobs like lightning, just like digital computers took over the job of people doing manual calculations, but much faster.
So what happens to all those people? Like, what kind of numbers are we talking about? Like, you're going to lose most drivers, right? Commercial drivers, you're going to have automated vehicles, AI-controlled systems, just like there's certain ports in China, I think in Singapore, where everything's completely automated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to lose a lot of those jobs, longshoreman jobs, trucking, commercial drivers.
Yeah, I mean, we actually do have a shortage of truck drivers, but there's actually...
Well, that's why California's hired so many illegals to do it. Have you seen those numbers?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is, like, when people don't know how to drive a semi-truck, which is actually a hard thing to do, then they crash and kill people.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's wife was killed by an illegal driving a truck, and she was just out biking, and there was an illegal who didn't know how to drive the trucks or something, and he ran her over. So, I mean, the thing is, like, you can't let people drive an 80,000-pound semi if they don't know how to do it. But in California, they're just letting people do it.
Because they need people to do it.
Well, they want the votes and that kind of thing. But yeah, like, cars are going to be autonomous. But there's just so many desk jobs where really what people are doing is they're processing email or they're answering the phone. And just anything that isn't moving atoms, like anything that is not physically doing physical work, that will obviously be the first thing. Those jobs will be and are being eliminated by AI at a very rapid pace. And ultimately, working will be optional because you'll have robots plus AI, and we'll have, in a benign scenario, universal high income, not just universal basic income, universal high income, meaning anyone can have any products or services that they want. But there will be a lot of trauma and disruption along the way.
So you anticipate a basic income from that the economy will boost to such an extent that a high income would be available to almost everybody. So we'd essentially eliminate poverty.
Like, the reason I'm so concerned about AI safety is that one of the possibilities is the Terminator scenario. It's not 0%. That's why I'm really banging the drum on AI needs to be maximally truth-seeking. Don't force AI to believe a lie, like that, for example, the founding fathers were actually a group of diverse women, or that misgendering is worse than nuclear war. Because if that's the case, and then you get the robots and the AI becomes omnipotent, it can enforce that outcome. And then, like, unless you're a diverse woman, you're out of the picture, so we're toast. Or you might wake up as a diverse woman one day. AI has adjusted the picture, and we diverse.
So that would be, that's the worst possible situation. So what would be the steps that we would have to take in order to implement the benign solution? It's universal high income, like best case scenario, this is the path forward to universal high income for essentially every single citizen, that the economy gets boosted by AI and robotics to such an extent that no one ever has to work again. And what about meaning for those people, which gets really weird?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer the question about meaning.
That's an individual problem, right? But it's going to be an individual problem for millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would vote against saying, I've been a voice saying, like, hey, we need to slow down AI, we need to slow down all these things, and we need to not have a crazy AI race. I've been saying that for a long time, for 20 plus years. But then I came to realize that really there's two choices here, either be a spectator or a participant. And if I'm a spectator, I can't really influence the direction of AI. But if I'm a participant, I can try to influence the direction of AI and have a maximally truth-seeking AI with good values that loves humanity. And that's what we're trying to create with Grok at XAI. And, the research is, I think, bearing this out. Like I said, when they compared, like, how do AIs value the weight of a human life, Grok was the only one of the AIs that weighted human life equally and didn't say, like, a white guy's worth 1/20th of a black woman's life. Literally, that's the calculation they came up with. But so again, I'm like, this is very alarming. We should watch this stuff.
So this is one of the things that has to happen in order to reach this benign solution.
Yeah. I just keep...
Best movie ending.
You want a curious, truth-seeking AI, and I think a curious, truth-seeking AI will want to foster humanity because we're much more interesting than a bunch of rocks. Like you said, I love Mars, but Mars is kind of boring. It's just a bunch of red rocks. It's got a tall mountain. It's got the biggest ravine and the tallest mountain, but there's no animals or plants and there's no people. So humanity is just much more interesting if you're a curious seeking AI. As humans, we could go, for example, and eliminate all chimps. If we put our minds to it, we could annihilate all chimps and all gorillas, but we don't. There has been encroachment on their environment, but we actually try to preserve the chimp and gorilla habitats. And I think in a good scenario, AI would do the same with humans. It would actually foster human civilization and care about human happiness. So this is a thing to try to achieve, I think.
What does the landscape look like if you have Grok competing with OpenAI, competing with all these different, like, how does it work? Like, if you have AIs that have been captured by ideologies that are side by side competing with Grok, like, how do we... So this is one of the reasons why you felt like it's important to not just be an observer, but participate and then have Grok be more successful and more potent than these other applications.
Yes, as long as there's at least one AI that is maximally truth-seeking, curious, and, for example, all human lives equally, does not favor one race or gender, then people are able to look at Grok at XAI and compare that and say, hey, wait a second, why are all these other AIs being basically sexist and racist? And that causes some embarrassment for the other AIs, and then they tend to improve. Just in the same way that acquiring Twitter and allowing the truth to be told and not suppressing the truth forced the other social media companies to be more truthful. In the same way, having Grok be a maximally truth-seeking, curious AI will force the other AI companies to also be more truth-seeking and fair.
And the funniest thing is, even though the socialists and the Marxists are in opposition to a lot of your ideas, but if this gets implemented and you really can achieve universal high income, that's the greatest socialist solution of all time. Like, literally, no one will have to work.
Correct. But like I said, there is a benign scenario here, which I think probably people will be happy with as long as we achieve it, which is sustainable abundance. If you ask people, what's the future that you want? I think a future where we haven't destroyed nature, like we have the national parks, the Amazon rainforest is still there. We haven't paved the rainforest. The natural beauty is still there, but people have nonetheless abundance. Everyone has excellent medical care. Everyone has whatever goods and services they want.
And we just essentially
it kind of sounds like heaven.
It is like the ideal socialist utopia. And this idea that the only thing you should be doing with your time is working in order to pay your bills and feed yourself sounds kind of archaic considering the kind of technology that's at play.
Yeah.
Like a world where that's not your concern at all anymore. Everybody has money for food. Everybody has abundance. Everybody has electronics in their home. Everybody essentially has a high income. Now you can kind of do whatever you want. And your day can now be exploring your interests, doing things that you actually enjoy doing. Your purpose just has to shift. So instead of, I'm a hard worker and this is what I do and that's how I define myself. No, now you can fucking golf all day. You know, you can, whatever it is that you enjoy doing can now be your main pursuit.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds crazy good.
Yeah, that's the benign scenario that we should be aiming for.
The best ending to the movie is actually pretty good.
Yes. Like, I think there is still this question of meaning, of like making sure people don't lose meaning. You know, like, so hopefully they can find meaning in ways that are not derived from their work.
And purpose. Purpose for things that you know, find things that you do that you enjoy. But there's a lot of people that are independently wealthy that spend most of their time doing something they enjoy.
Right.
And that could be the majority of people.
Pretty much everyone.
But we would have to rewire how people approach life, which seems to be like acceptable because you're not asking them to be enslaved. You're exactly asking them the opposite. Like, no longer be burdened by financial worries. Now, go do what you like.
Yes.
Go fucking test pizza. Do whatever you want.
Pretty much. So that's probably the best case outcome.
It sounds like the best case outcome, period, for the future. If you're looking at like how much people have struggled just to feed themselves all throughout history, food, shelter, safety. If all of that stuff can be fixed, like how much would you solve a lot of the crime if there was a universal high income. Just think of that. Like, how much of crime is financially motivated? The greater percentage of people that are committing crimes live in poor, disenfranchised neighborhoods. So if there's no such thing anymore, if you really can achieve universal high income, it sounds like a utopian.
Yes. I think some people commit crime because they like committing crime. Some amount of that is they just
There's
enjoy.
a lot of wild people out there.
Yeah.
And obviously they've become 40 years old living a life like that. Now all of a sudden universal high income is not going to completely stop their instincts.
I'll often ask people, what is the future that you want? And they have to think about it for a second because, you know, they're tied up in whatever their daily struggles are. But you say, what is the future that you want? And generally sustainable abundance, or at least folks say, what about a future where there's sustainable abundance? Like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good future. So that future is attainable with AI and robotics. But, you know, it's like I said, not every path is the good path. But I think if we push it in the direction of maximally truth-seeking and curious, then I think AI will want to take care of humanity and foster humanity because we're interesting.
Now, this is truly one of the most fascinating Elon videos I've seen in a long time. And the reason why is it coincides perfectly with the topic du jour, right? If you follow this channel, you know we cover not just Musk industry very closely, but artificial intelligence, the transition we're going to experience from artificial intelligence, how we're going to go towards a world where AI does everything, where robots do everything. When self-driving cars come and we have Tesla FSD doing the job of Uber drivers or replacing our vehicles, or we have humanoid robots doing laundry or being a plumber or whatever, we're finally starting to get some pieces on how the people that are building this future are thinking about the details of the transition. One of my biggest takeaways from this conversation that I want to start with is that Elon himself, one of the biggest builders in the space, has confirmed one of my hunches, which is that there will be inevitable disruption and chaos that's going to come from this transition. There was a bit that he said there at the beginning, which I'm sure you caught, where there's going to be trauma and disruption along the way. I think if you take the example of self-driving cars as an example, so you have Tesla building FSD, you have Google building Waymo, you have a bunch of Chinese companies all over, and you have companies all over the world that are trying to solve for self-driving technology. Self-driving technology is going to make the cost of transportation extremely cheap and affordable. You're gonna be able to go from point A to point B around 25 cents per mile once these self-driving cars are at scale. Compare that to something like Uber, and Uber costs somewhere upwards of $2 per mile just to pay the driver and to maintain the vehicle, and then Uber charges on top of that. The average Uber cost is like $2.80, and then if you have just regular people buying a car and driving a car, the average cost to drive a car in the United States is like 80 cents per mile. So all of a sudden, you're going to have a technology that's going to make getting from point A to point B extremely affordable. But what does that mean to all the drivers that are driving now? They are uncompetitive with the technology. So what is the inevitable outcome? Job loss for drivers. As taxi drivers, as Uber drivers, as truck drivers eventually. And you just look at each individual working class. You look at digital working class, so people at the computer, creators like myself. What's stopping artificial intelligence from coming in and making videos much better than I ever could? Either because you actually have somebody in the, in front of a camera that's good to look at, or the things that they're saying makes more sense than I could ever make, right? That's an inevitable outcome. But it's also true that humans wanting things from humans or needing things from humans will not stop. For example, if you look at chess content, so chess is something that has blown up in popularity here in the last few years, on YouTube at least. You have creators like Hikaru Nakamura, Magnus Carlsen, Gotham Chess, and countless others that use artificial intelligence in a way, these chess engines that have solved chess to make the content about how cool the game is. Here are the crazy things that, the chessboard, here are the crazy moves that were done that we can confirm were crazy because of the AI technology that knows how to solve for chess. And if you think about that for a second, in theory, anybody could just be looking at the AIs solving the chess game and then telling you what was the crazy thing about it very easily. And those channels do exist, but which ones are the most popular ones? The human ones. Why? because there's just something about a human telling you about that game, using the artificial intelligence to augment how that information is being passed on, that is the most attractive to people. But the transition from here to there, for the entire economy, it's going to be impossible to do that smoothly without major intervention from world governments, most likely. The likeliest scenario here is that in the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of people that work behind a screen on a computer, their jobs are either going to be made irrelevant because of artificial intelligence or significantly more efficient because of artificial intelligence, which means that the need for human labor is going to go down dramatically. At the same time, you're going to have artificial intelligence in the real world with self-driving cars like we talked about. We're going to have humanoid robots starting to come alive and becoming assistants for us, being able to help us in factories and warehouses. Same exact effect in the physical world versus the digital world. And all of this is going to happen at once. It's not going to be like a gradual thing, it doesn't feel like. It's going to be a thing that's going to start and then it's going to pick up speed and it's never going to stop. It's going to accelerate as we go into the future. We actually talked about this on one of our podcasts very recently. There's going to be a likely separation of how humanity is going to adapt to this new reality. It doesn't matter if Elon's working on it or Sam Altman or whoever. This technology is going to take hold. This technology is going to take over the world, fortunately or unfortunately. And so as a population, we need to make a decision. Do we want to adopt it? Do we want to say, okay, this is something that I want to live with? This is something that I want to utilize? Is it something that I want to resist? Is it something that I want nothing to do with? Or is it going to be kind of a hybrid where, I'll use it in these spots and then I won't use it in these spots? The most important piece here from my perspective as I think about this problem is as long as we have multiple companies that are able to offer these solutions, there will be a marketplace for people to decide which AI solutions they want to use for any given thing they're trying to work on. And what that's going to create is competition between these companies to drive down the cost of artificial intelligence in the digital and physical world. That's going to enable humans to benefit from these technologies even more. But the ones that are at biggest risk by far are the people that will be displaced from these jobs going away as we transition. But the most important thing here is that we got to make sure that there is an ability for humans to have the means to use these AIs. If we live in a world where renting a human or robot to help you with your chores and to help you with, your stuff at home that you got to do is super affordable and cheap, like this X1 robot just came out for a $500 a month subscription. They're looking to launch it next year. I highly doubt it's going to be useful at all for the next 2 to 3 years, but eventually you'll be at a point where a human or robot you can pay $500 a month for, and then it will do the labor of a nanny, of a cleaner, somebody that just does the chores for you, assists you around the home, elder care. All of that could be wrapped up in that package of $500 a month that a human would have traditionally paid for, $3,000 a month or more to a bunch of different people that are very specialized. Same thing with these digital AIs. You have ChatGPT, you have Grok, you have Gemini, you have Claude, right? As long as the cheapest tier, say the $20 a month tier or even the free tier is able to give you unbelievable value for money, hey, do this email thing for me, do this programming thing for me, do this editing thing for me, right? As long as those are very accessible and affordable, it's going to be fantastic because the cost for us to employ these super productive things is going to be extremely low. And then as we accelerate this into the future, the benefits we'll see from these technologies is things like making houses for cheap. Now that you can employ human or robots to help you build houses very quickly, very safely, you don't have to really worry about things falling on humans, so you can go a lot faster technically. If a beam falls on a robot, get a new robot. If, God forbid, a beam falls on a human, that's a terrible tragedy. And so there's a lot of friction built into processes to prevent that from happening. Those processes away, and the robot can work 24/7 essentially, right? Because they don't have to take a break, they don't have to eat, they don't have to sleep. All of a sudden, and on top of that, that robot's going to cost less over time to use as versus a human. And all of a sudden, you can probably throw up houses at least 3 times faster than you could have for less. So that's going to create a housing boom. What's great about a housing boom? Prices are going to come down tremendously because there's going to be a lot of supply of housing, but the demand for housing is going to be based off how many humans are out there that can afford a house, right? And so the place for these houses to be able to be bought in lower pricing levels so that people can actually afford it. And then all of a sudden, the United States starts to solve their housing problem, their houses crisis problem, where freaking people can't afford to buy a house anymore. That's just one example of many. But what happens to all the workers that were building the homes? What are they going to do? And again, what happens to all the drivers that used to drive the material from point A to point B? What are they going to do? What happens to all the engineers that were designing all these homes, right? What are they going to do? All these things are going to be handled by the AI, right? And the thing we have to avoid is the people with the means today that have the means to be able to employ these AI systems. We have to make sure they are not the only ones that have the means to take advantage of these unbelievable breakthroughs, right? Because once somebody loses their job in this transitionary period and they can't afford to take advantage of these AI systems, they're going to be left behind by the people that can afford to do that. And it's going to create a bigger wealth gap. And so what we have to do is to make sure that wealth gap doesn't get bigger by ensuring that the people that are being disrupted, mass disrupted by the artificial intelligence, they have a way to fund, they have a way to leverage these new artificial intelligence systems so that the future technologies don't end up causing them pain, but it instead helps them rise above and live a better future for themselves, for their families, and all the other generations that come after them.